What's up, Trunk Slayers? It's Monday. You know what that means. It's time to be spicy. It's Spicy Monday. And I want to talk a little bit about trust today. And before we get into the video, this video is not about, I'm not ragging on the concept of trust. I am going to be hopefully blowing a giant hole in the idea that how much you trust a vendor should be a value proposition when you buy from them. And specifically, we're going to talk about backup vendors and why I get what you all mean when you say that, but it's real dumb that you do say that. So let's talk for a minute about this weird thing we do as people where we tend to anthropomorphize other things and pretend that they are people. I do it all the time with my dog. And it's the same part of our brains that causes us to see faces in a piece of toast and, the man on the moon, et cetera, et cetera. I know that as a New England resident for nearly 2 decades, I trusted that my team would win or at least get to the championships. And they did. And then that stopped happening. And hey, the Celtics beat the Mavs last night. I'm not a basketball guy, but that was kind of cool. It's nice to be back on top. Maybe we'll keep that going. My point is, like, for example, with the Patriots, as soon as that stopped happening, I felt bad. In fact, I almost felt betrayed. And if you think about that, that's a nonsense feeling because the Patriots aren't a person. They don't even know me. They don't owe me anything. They quite literally have not betrayed me by any definition of the term. Yet I felt like that trust was broken. And then good old Bob Crafty said some mean things about my boy Belichick. And I felt even more betrayed, like trust was broken. But yet there was never any trust there because I don't have a relationship with any of the people in question. And I hope that some of you have felt this way about something because I think if, dramatic foreshadowing, it'll lead you to what I'm talking about in a minute. I see a lot of posts like this on Reddit where folks compare backup solutions, which, whatever, it's Reddit. People are going to ask the unqualified masses what tools they should use. That's a weird thing. I don't get that, but whatever. And I see a lot of people posting specifically about backup vendors, about which ones they do or they do not trust. And specifically in the context of do or do not trust the vendor, comma space, in that they'll take care of my data so that I won't be in a pickle when I need a backup. And, well, I'm just here to say that that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And if that's how you pick any vendor, but especially a core line of business, your one undo, get out of jail free card, revert, control Z option, the emergency break glass fire axe for MSPs, and you're applying trust to how you picked that? Are you stupid? So I'd made a comment on a few of these that I don't trust any vendors. And what I meant by that was not that I don't try to establish a relationship with vendors and that I don't start to anthropomorphize and personify vendors as though they were people. Of course I do. I'm a human. I'm going to do those things. But I don't go into those relationships with an expectation that it's a two-way relationship where trust has been established. In other words, I don't do what I just said that a lot of us do around our sports teams, right? And specifically with backups, I think this is a super important concept because here's the thing. The person who's responsible for your backups is you, right there. You, looking into the camera. You're the person. You're responsible for them, dumbass, not a vendor. Now, if we want to get technical, and we want to, and boy, do I love getting technical, then what your backup verbiage should say, because y'all have an RPO and RTO document that outlines your backup policies and whose responsibility backups and data are, right? So, of course, because of course you all have that, then that document would already have language that implies that any individual client's data is their own problem, not yours, which is exactly what your backup vendors documents should be saying to you, which is exactly what Microsoft or whatever else tell you about their SaaS software. It basically boils down to, haha, get fucked. And the thing is, they're right. That's exactly how it should be. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, as an MSP, you are a shepherd put in charge of someone else's flock. Yes, you are being paid to guide that flock from pasture to pen every day, keep them safe, let the owners of the flock know if a wolf happens to get one, and otherwise try to keep everything status quo. But they're not your sheep. And not only are they not your sheep, you are not eating the meat, you are not wearing the wool, you are getting none of the value directly derived from those sheep. Yes, you're getting a paycheck, right? But those sheep and what those sheep produce isn't yours. And it's not your responsibility to take full ownership of that relationship, just like it's not your backup vendor's responsibility to take full ownership of that relationship. And if you want to keep that going, so I trust the lovely people at Acme Fence Co. to make the best fence. That's what you're saying. The fence for your sheep pen. You trust them. Well, that's dumb. I mean, they're not installing it. And if they do install it, well, they're not maintaining it. And if they do maintain it, then they're not the ones using it every day. So who does all that fall back? Oh, that's right. The sheep herder who's in charge of keeping the sheep alive. And in the same vein here, I just don't get the idea of trust here. I'm not telling you not to trust. Just the concept of trust shouldn't be involved at all. There should be a trust ambivalence. There should be a delta of zero trust, positive or negative, shouldn't even be on the table. You should be floating there in a white Zen room full of no trust. And I'm not talking about security zero trust, like getting all militant, like I don't trust nobody. I just logically, who gives a shit if your backup vendor is or isn't trustworthy? You're the one backing up the data. You're the one the client's going to blame. You're the one who doesn't have any documentation with your client saying you're not actually responsible for any backed up data. Because I know you're not. I know you lied to me a few minutes ago when I asked. I know you don't have that. There's an important detail we need to talk about quickly. I made the sort of joke a little while ago that with the idea of a fencing system for your sheep pen, I trust Acme to make the best fence. Why does that meme even work? Why does that joke work? It's because, sorry, this is going to sound like an episode of Adam Ruins Everything for a minute, and I'm no Adam Conover. You've been marketed to, your parents have been marketed to, and their parents have been marketed to. This concept that if you trust a product or trust a company has been a long-standing part of American and Western culture since before any of us or our grandparents walked the planet. And for a simple reason, it's much easier to get you to buy something if you associate your value proposition that whatever you're buying is sold by or produced by or quite literally is another person you can have a relationship with. You know how to do that. So we've been told and we've seen that language in marketing for well over 150 years that we should trust in insert whatever it is. That is a big part of the reason why you go to apply that concept of I want a vendor I can trust. And I think that is important to mention because it helps make the whole thing a little less hand-wavy if you understand where this is coming from. And to take it a slight smidge further and to edge this conversation ever so slightly out of my area of expertise. So if anybody watching this catches this part and says, Dean, you're astroturfing, yeah, kinda. I don't really fully understand folks who use backup vendors that fully host and run everything for them and why that's so exciting for all of you. I'm not picking on anyone's favorite vendor. Shut up, dado people. Calm down. But I don't really ever get that. I'll give an example. So like my MSP and me personally, I've been using Acronis now for damn near 20 years. I love Acronis. And I'll fight you in the parking lot over that. After this video, I'll grab a spoon. You'll lose. But my point is, like, over all of these years, has Acronis not worked properly at times? Of course it's not worked properly at times. Have I had trouble contacting their support sometimes? I have had trouble contacting their support sometimes because they're a fucking vendor. And so, yeah, like the product has failed sometimes, which is why I didn't put all of my eggs in one basket, host all of my backup storage and whatever the fuck their cloud is on their shit, abdicate complete control of the relationship, and then just sit there at my little desk at my MSP being like, herder, my vendor's down. I guess I trusted the wrong vendor. Like, that's dumb. And if you're that person, you're dumb. Like, especially around backups. It's just dumb. Which is why I don't understand why trust comes into play, because I will see it on the other side. Folks will get up and they will defend vendors like that, talking about how much they trust them, how they've never let them down, etc., yada, yada. Same argument applies to documentation platforms. I hear all of you say the same shit, that you don't trust one or you trust the other, and this is why. I'm like, folks, someone else is hosting your shit. Of course it's going to break it some. It would break if you hosted it. Like, let's get into that for a sec. So one of the interesting things with trust, and it's one of the interesting ways our brains work, is that for the most part, when someone who isn't you or something that isn't you, some entity that isn't you, makes a decision that has an outcome that you don't agree with, we generally as people have a lot of difficulty with rationalizing that behavior because we wouldn't have done it, or if we had done it, we would have done it for a different reason or a different way. And that's 100% of everybody watching this video. And as I've given the example before of how we all have protagonist problems, if you've ever been in traffic, ever in your life, or waiting in a line and thought, why won't these people move? I have somewhere to be. That's what literally everyone else in traffic was thinking. And in that moment, you forgot that everyone else isn't an NPC. So we've all been guilty of it. And why I'm saying this now is so a lot of you are going to basically say, well, this is why I self-hosting. This is why I self-host my backups, or I self-host my document, or whatever it is. And present it as I've put all of these fail safes in, this, immutability in. I've gone in and made my own castle is so robust. Shut the fuck up. Like, your castle leaks. It's full of holes. One of the walls is crumbling. It breaks all the goddamn time. You just forget to tell us that part. Because in your own mind, you know why those things happen. And they didn't happen because you were irresponsible. They happened because you made choices. But other people are assholes. They don't have informed reasons they do things. Harumph and such. And largely, that's why this whole concept of trust just shouldn't apply at all, because I wouldn't trust any of you, and none of you should be trusting me. We're all terrible. We're all terrible. But you get the point. Is your backup software is going to fail. It is going to break. It is going to make mistakes. It is not infallible. We could have a separate video on how the fuck in 2024 that shit still breaks and has problems. And there's a lot of threads we could pull on for an industry that's been around for so long that basically founded MSP. And while we're here, fuck you, backup industry. What the hell? But that aside, like, it's gonna break. It's gonna not go correctly, whether you host it, they host it, you pay someone to host it, your most favorite MSP hosts it. Everybody screws this up. So why go in and trust that they will not, when 100% of everyone touching this has screwed this up or will screw it up at some point? And if you take that off the table, hopefully, it will cause you to think a little bit more critically about how you are approaching backups.